Welcome to Visual Studio Online Fundamentals. In this session, we're going to be talking about Visual Studio Online and Azure. I'm James Tupper.
And I'm Stephen Borg.
So let's talk about this session overview. We're going to be talking about your MSDN subscription and the Azure benefits that you get with that subscription, which are pretty phenomenal, to be honest with you. And I think most people don't really know about them, which is surprising. Then we're going to jump into demos and do a lap around the Azure portal, as well as linking Azure to Visual Studio Online. So the first things first is if you have an MSDN subscription, what you want to do is activate your Azure benefits, right? Depending on which subscription you have, you get $50 to $150 in credits, and that's on a monthly basis, right? So that means every single month I have either $50, ranging from $50 up to $150 to just spend in Azure. And that means virtual machines, websites, virtual networks, VPN connections, whatever you want to use, you can just go ahead and spend it in Azure. Now, you can use Azure for anything. There's websites, cloud services, mobile services, SQL storage, Azure storage, content delivery network, HD Insight, media surface, and so much more. And the great thing about Azure is that they're adding more and more stuff every single day. I think it's at least once a week when I go and jump into the Azure portal, I see something new. Something that's in preview or something that was in preview is now completely full RTM, ready to go and use publicly, right? Now, another really cool thing is that if you link your MSDN subscription to Azure and you want to go over your spending limit, you get discounted prices, which is really nice, right? So if you're a subscriber and you want to spend over the $150 or the $100 or the $50, depending on what you have, you can do it really easily, and you get it at a lot cheaper than if you just were to use Azure without an MSDN subscription, right?
Now, I think it's probably very worth saying here, in almost all the other sessions, we're talking about VSO and you, and we haven't had any discussion of needing an MSDN subscription. Now, you don't need an MSDN subscription to use Azure. It's just if you have one, that linkage sure is nice and you get that free money. So in this particular demonstration, the stuff we'll be talking about will apply whether or not you have MSDN, but if you do have MSDN, that's where you get those extra benefits.
Yeah, I actually run my blog on Azure for free because of using my MSDN benefits.
I think it's fantastic. It's a great use for those.
Yeah. So let's go into our first demo, which is going to be a lap around the Azure portal. Steve, you want to show us that?
Love to. So in this demonstration, we're going to be going down to or over to portal.azure.com. Now this is the new portal. It's always difficult. We're in the middle of a transition now. We're going to stick with what's in the new portal. That's portal.azure.com. If you pop over to portal.azure.com, you see what I get when I log in. Now I've logged in here and you can see I've got myself up here, my little picture, etc. And Microsoft Azure, I can see the service health of all the organizations around here. I can see what's new, I can leave feedback, I can take the Welcome to Azure tour, which I actually really recommend, or going through the quick start as well. I can go to the Azure gallery and buy new things that'll integrate with Azure. But I want to walk you through instead using some of the things. So there's notifications you may have, browsing, journeys, billing. I'm going to skip over most of these, but billing gives you like how much you've been charged, etc. I'm going to start with browse. Now browse lets me walk through various things on Azure. Now I'm going to click on everything up here. That's going to give me this nice little piece over here. And if I look at it, you can see application insights, document DB, MySQL databases, the quick start. Let's walk through a few and pull out a couple of these. We could go and do an awful long presentation on this, but the MVA has many really wonderful really training around all of these areas. It's an amazing resource. So application insights, that helps us identify some really cool things that might be happening with our website and profiling and things like that. Document DB is a document based storage, like a database, but it's a document database as opposed to a SQL database.
Like MongoDB.
Like
similar to
MongoDB,
that.
similar to MongoDB. There's MySQL databases, which are an open source database tool. And there's the Quick Start, which we talked about. There's Redis caches. That's another open source thing that Microsoft has brought in. That's a caching infrastructure. Resource groups are a way to define a bunch of different things, maybe an application insights and a MySQL and a SQL database, and put them all into one billing container, if you would, that resource group. Search services, we've got search services and indexing for us. We can look at the service health, SQL databases, SQL servers, just tons of things. Virtual machines, one of the most important. This is an infrastructure as a service, and I can spin up virtual machines in Azure. This is especially important to me as a developer if I'm using this dev-test type relationship. I might want to just spin up machines in Azure, throw them out there, deploy my code onto them, and not have to call up IT and wait 2 weeks for a virtual machine to be built for me. I can set up virtual networks. As an enterprise, you might want to set one of these up and tie it into your Active Directory and have it share in your Active Directory. There's hosting plans, websites, lots of other details. Wanted to pull that up and kind of do a quick, crazy walkthrough of some of the functionality. Now, I have to say, I am dead sold on Azure. Azure is a wonderful environment. We use it, James and I. James primarily is one of the key coders on an application we're building that's all in Azure. And the whole thing is hosted in different components of Azure. And what we've found is we're able to get that cycle time faster. We're able to build something, deploy it, test it, check it out, get very fast feedback because we're in Azure. I think it's a great tool. And it complements Visual Studio Online so very, very nicely. Because with VSO, I've got that single source of truth, I've got automated builds, and frankly, my automated builds can deploy straight into Azure. So I can do some really interesting things with Azure. Now that we've seen this, I might pull open and take a look at some things like websites. I can see any websites I have hosted. And now this is my personal account, so I don't have all of the ones that we're building. Here, I guess that's ALM Crank. That's your website, actually. Let me go in and make sure I'm located in my directory. I'm going to pop over to this one. This one's more mine.
Yeah.
ALM Crank was yours, but we'll come back in again. Just needed to get my permission once again to make sure I'm authenticated into that account. So here I am back again, and we can browse through again and see some of the websites. We can load up. These are mine, and I frankly have just one that I was using as a kind of an experiment with Nancy and some others. More importantly, our team projects. And this is where we want to start talking about how team projects potentially work with Visual Studio. So I can pop that open and I can create team projects right from here. Now, I'm probably going a little bit further. I'm probably jumping in further than I should have, because I suppose there's more things we should talk about now that we've had this end-to-end walkthrough.
So how do you get these benefits? I have an MSDN subscription, but how do I actually activate the Azure benefits to take advantage of that $50 or the $150 that my MSDN subscription gives me?
That is really where I think we need to demo. So for the listener, how do you go out, activate your subscription, and then go into the Azure portal and make that linkage? Get that Azure tied to your Visual Studio Online subscription. Now, you don't have to, once again, tie VSO to Azure, but I think it's a great thing to do. So let's link those two up. And I'm going to do that by going to msdn.microsoft.com, signing in. You'll see I'm signed in right here, Stephen Borg, ALM MVP, and I'm in this basic front page. Now to get there, I'm going to my MSDN subscription, and it's very simple. Once you've signed in, you'll notice I have a Visual Studio Ultimate with MSDN, and right from here, I can do a couple of things. Now we've come from the perspective in all our other demos of not being an MSDN subscriber. Just going and signing up. But if you are, here you can create a Visual Studio Online account right here. You can link to like organizational accounts, things like that. Most importantly for us is activate Microsoft Azure. And we can click on that link to activate our Azure subscriptions. Now, I'm in, right? It's signing me up. It's got the sign up window, bringing me into some of the Azure portal here. I've signed up. My account's been activated. And why? Because this is what I use day in, day out. So it says not available. I already have used up my Azure subscription benefit. Now remember, I'm using the wrong term. Used up is the wrong term. Every month I get $150 to use on Azure, which frankly is a lot of time.
It really is.
Yep. So that's how you sign up for your Azure benefits. Again, mine says it's not available, but that's simply because I've already used it.
Yeah. You've not used it, you've already activated it.
I've already activated it. Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true.
Yep.
So next demo is then saying, how can I take those benefits, that Visual Studio Online and the Azure benefits, and link them together? Now, we're in a transition period as we go to portal.azure.com. So in this next demo, I'm going to be going back to Visual Studio, and I'm at into Internet Explorer rather, and I'm at portal.azure.com. And this time, rather than going and browsing to it, I'm going to say create a new everything and select Team Project right there. Now this brings me to a whole different UI. So there's some different UI experiences, and right now there's some different ways to get it back. But here it tells me a lot about it, gives me some things that I get, etc. And I can click Create to create a new team project. Now when I create a new team project, I give it a name just like anything else. I configure my version control here, but most importantly is this account setting where it says Configure Required Settings. If you're brand new, you need to configure these required settings. Now I'm going to click it and bring up some interesting details. I am at Use Existing Account. I want to use like the NWC account that we've been using. It's currently not highlighted. That feature has not yet been lit up in the new portal. So if I want to do that, I need to go back and go to portal.windowsazure.com and go kind of the other direction in. That's a little bit unfortunate for right now, but we want to stay in the new portal because this is where your experience is going to be. So we can go instead and create a new one. This gives me the walkthrough, the URL, much like before, and I can choose my URL. This might be my personal demo for Steve. Make it nice and long so that it's not already used. I get the little smiley face there. And I can click OK. And at this point, I can start walking through that setup. I can give my name for my new team project, which is my Azure TP, team project. I can add it to my start board. It's based on this subscription, and create. At this point, my team projects are embedded into the new Azure portal. So now I have a different experience. I can come at it through the demo site for steve.visualstudio.com, or I can come through the portal and it's fully integrated into my portal experience. So in this demonstration, James, what we've really done is we've come together and we've created a team project, we've activated our benefits, and we've linked those things up. And that's what you can do on your site is you can go out to the new portal and create a new Visual Studio account, Visual Studio Online account, or you can go to the old portal and you can link up maybe the account that you just created earlier. Either way, it's pretty straightforward and easy to do, and I recommend you get started on it right away. But if nothing else, activate those MSDN benefits. It's an unbelievably good deal.